Hello and welcome to Rando 500, where I take a look at a kinda random game in 500 words. Give or take 10%. Let's go. Is there a word for a game that looks cute but is insane in its difficulty? Cutal maybe? Whatever you use, the word applies perfectly to Mr. Nutz. Developed by Ocean and released in 1993 for the Super Nintendo, and nearly every other console under the sun in subsequent years, Mr. Nutz tells the tale of a squirrel on a mission to prevent an evil Yeti from bringing about a sixth ice age. Mr. Nutz must travel across 6 worlds, each split into several levels plus a boss battle.
Oh my god!
Nightmares come free of charge. He can attack enemies by jumping on them, chucking acorns, or cutely swishing his tail at them. Mr. Nutz will need to utilise all of these combat skills because he is the weakest squirrel in the world. Maybe the universe. You name it and Mr. Nutz probably takes damage from it. Apples, caterpillars, ladybirds, tiny moles, micro snails, raw chicken, wine corks, and even fucking peas. A balanced meal could easily kill this son of a sow. If the enemies aren't ruining your day, the controls will. Even though the game was developed for the Super Nintendo, the developers seem to have missed those 2 shoulder buttons on the top of the gamepad. You have to use separate buttons to run and shoot, which, regardless of the control scheme you pick, feels unnatural. I'm not sure why they couldn't have taken cues from Mario with a shared run and shoot button, or even allowed you to map one of the commands to the shoulder buttons. You'll just have to lump it. Let's talk difficulty. This game is hard with a capital H. No, all caps. You can somewhat adjust the challenge by jacking up your lives and hit points, but it doesn't change the fact that 1-ups are as rare as hen's bollocks. And when you're out of lives, the game puts you right back at the beginning of the world. The upside is you get the best game over screen I've ever seen. Look at him, he looks so disappointed. It's like he just found out his son's bought an NFT. Frustrations aside, I can't deny that this is a gorgeous game. It's uncommon to see the system's huge colour palette used so well. Environments are beautifully detailed, rich and vibrant. The animation on Mr. Nutz is great too. He's cute and expressive, but does look different to the box art, where they decided to give him the Sonic treatment. Oh god, they gave him shades too. The music by Rafael Gesca is upbeat and fits the game perfectly. No SNES toilet reverb here. The main motif is used throughout the soundtrack, which ties everything together, but at the same time sucks a bit of the originality from each song. So, do I recommend the game? If you're not averse to using save states, then give it a go. If you're someone who hates the concept of save states and emulation, who thinks they're hard enough to beat it the old school way, then go for it. Just be aware that you'll lose sleep, friends, and hair in the process. It's a 6 out of 10 from me. Hello! It's been a while, but welcome back to Rando 500, where I take a look at a kinda random game in 500 words. Give or take 10%. Let's go. Snow Bros. Nick and Tom was originally released by Tourplan in the arcades in 1990. You play as Nick and/or Tom and use your ball handling skills in order to clear 50 stages and save some Jelly Bee princesses. Today we're looking at the 1994 Japanese Mega Drive port, which in my opinion is the best. The nicely drawn intro stars Nick, Tom, the princesses Puri Puri and Poochie Poochie as they chill on a hill. What a lovely day, but oh no, here's the bad guy who looks like Jareth the Goblin King gone kabuki. He nicks off with the princesses and it's down to the Snow Bros to save them. I assume if word got out that the princesses were abducted under their watch, these guys would have the snowballs cut off. This is one of those single-screen Bubble Bobble-esque games. There are only 2 buttons to worry about, one for jumping and one for snowballing. By throwing snowballs at enemies, you can turn them into a big old snowball which can be yeeted around the stage to defeat other enemies. If you kick a snowball into another snowball, their power increases and absolute chaos ensues. It takes a couple of seconds to figure out where the hell your character is after the mayhem's over. It's a lot of fun, until you die. And die you will. A lot. Thankfully, there's a password system, meaning you can beat the game in a single sitting. Defeated enemies leave behind score-boosting items as well as potions that can enhance your balls, speed you up, and grant you invincibility. By meeting certain conditions within stages, you can also unlock hidden rooms full of goodies, but I'm too stupid to access them. Stages consist of 10 floors with a boss waiting for you at the top. The arcade version had 50 floors altogether, but the Mega Drive had 70! That's a 40% increase in value! However, macho men, be aware that the last 20 levels have you controlling the princesses, which may or may not cause erectile dysfunction. Once the Bros of Snow beat the alleged last boss, they themselves end up getting nabbed and a wacky role reversal takes place. The princesses control identically to the Snow Bros, so it's business as usual, but the graphics get a noticeable boost. Everything feels a bit more mega-driven with better colours and detail. We also get a significant hike in difficulty alongside new enemies. After you've defeated the last boss, which, by the way, is a colossal wanker, you finally save the Snow Bros and beat the game. Nick and Tom get smooched, start blushing, and to my absolute disappointment, do not melt and die. What a waste! They could have added another 10 levels where the princesses search for a freezer. It's a shame that this never came to Western shores, but this was a port of a 4-year-old Japanese-themed arcade game, and the chances of it selling well were low. I do, however, highly recommend you give it a whirl. It also has a remaster available on the Nintendo Switch that I've never played. Do you have the balls to save the princesses?
Hello and welcome to Rando 500, Lost Voice Edition, where I take a look at a, well, let's be honest, a not very random game in 500 words, give or take 10%. Let's go. If you ever owned a Master System Model 2, you'll probably know Alex Kidd, who starred in Alex Kidd in Miracle World, the built-in game for early Model 2 consoles. It was an alright Mario clone with frustrating level design and luck-based bosses, unless you knew the answers. It wasn't until many years later that I found out that Alex had other outings on the Master System. One game was 1990's Alex Kidd in Shinobi World, which originally had no connection to Alex Kidd and was intended to be a parody of Shinobi. For whatever reason, I'm guessing money, Sega shoved our big-eared hero in the lead role. Alex's nameless girlfriend is captured by the evil ninja Hanzo, leaving him a pathetic, cowering mess. Sensing that evil has returned, the spirit of the legendary White Ninja bestows Alex with his powers, as well as a couple of inches in height. Best update that Tinder profile just in case the mission goes tits up. Jacked up on ninja juice, Alex sets out on a long, arduous journey across 4 worlds. Each stage is split into 2 levels plus a boss fight, all of which contain unique graphics, which helps to keep things feeling fresh. So despite the game's short length, there's a lot of content here which is good value for your money, or illegal download. Alex is equipped with a katana that can be upgraded to a kunai, which will make short work of most enemies. Smaller foes, such as these twatty pant-wearing crows, are more of a pain due to their small size and attack patterns. Alex can swing around poles like his rent depends on it, sending himself flying through the air as a fireball. He can also wall jump to reach some moderately secret areas containing health and 1-ups, which you'll be needing as you only have a single continue. One thing to note regarding the controls is that the game drops your inputs in certain segments. This tends to be in areas that require precision jumping, which can lead to an unfair death. It's not my controller either. I've tried with different pads on both original hardware and through emulation. The bosses are fairly straightforward for the most part. I like this guy called Robster, who throws lemon slices at you and gets all buttered up once you kill him. The last boss has 3 phases, the first of which is tough, due to you needing to get uncomfortably close to land a hit. The other 2 phases are laughably easy, as his attacks can be interrupted by a sword bonk to the face. You can literally stun lock him in the final phase. Get wrecked, dickhead! With Hanzo well and truly dead, Alex and What's-Her-Face are reunited. The legendary White Ninja leaves Alex's body, taking those extra inches with him, and the game is over. Despite its short length, there is a decent amount of girth to the game, and it gets more fun with repeated playthroughs. I highly recommend you pull out your Master System and play this game immediately.
Hello and welcome to Retro 500. Yeah, I have changed the name because, let's face it, I wasn't reviewing anything particularly random towards the end, so new name, who dis? Anyway, this is a series where I review a retro game in 500 words, give or take 10%. Less faffing about, let's get going. Do you understand what you're looking at right now? This is the future, where physical sports are replaced by virtual reality janky-tanky tussles. This is humanity's future, according to 1996's Assault Rigs, developed and published by Psygnosis for the PlayStation, Saturn, and DOS. Alongside Rayman and RoboPit, this is one of the first PS1 games I owned. The intro to the game astounded me when I first played it. I thought this scene here was actual real life. How could graphics even get better than this? The FMV takes us through video game history with Pong, or Ping, an R-Type-esque shooter in this hilarious FPS game. Finally, this futuristic lady hops into a big VR machine and starts a game of next-gen assault rigs. The title screen starts with an awesome electronic track that conveys images of virtual battlefields, a dystopian future, and imminent danger. Then, you hit a button, and a track that sounds like the theme tune to 15:1 starts to play.
Alf Mullins from Colchester.
Okay. The game has you select from 3 different rigs with different stats. The slower ones tend to have better shields and vice versa. A fairly cool thing is that as you progress through the game's 42 levels, your rig's appearance will change to match one of the 4 different environments. So, on a superficial level, there are 12 different rigs available. Look closely, and you may notice that the graphics haven't aged well, and can be downright weird in some instances. The frame rate does its best to stay at 60, but drops whenever there's anything remotely complex on screen. The actual rigs themselves look like something out of Robot Wars, especially in stages taking place in the non-VR areas. Control-wise, the rigs are extremely twitchy to maneuver. I'm playing as the slowest vehicle here, and it's still difficult to control. You can hold triangle to slow down, but this is too slow, making you a sitting duck for enemy fire. The controls are similar to Doom or Disruptor, with the D-pad controlling forward and backward movement and turning, and the shoulder buttons for strafing. They're adequate, but Assault Rigs is one of the many early 3D titles that would have really benefited from a dual analog control scheme had it been available. You have a few offensive and defensive power-ups to collect, such as miniguns, laser guns, and shields. They can definitely help with taking down enemies, but your real adversary here is the handling of your rig, which has some crazy collision detection with walls and other objects. When you bump into something, it feels like your rig is snapping against it, desperately trying to align itself to whatever surface it's against. This makes aiming in tight corridors very tricky and can sometimes make you flip over.
Remember, people, this is just a game.
The soundtrack by the legendary Matt Furness, cheesy title track included, is stellar.
Cool jump.
It's kinda cheesy, but it has a great sci-fi atmosphere. Can you believe that reviewers thought the soundtrack wasn't appropriate? Assault Rigs is almost worthy of the title of Hidden Gem, but it's held back by one massive flaw: the handling. Had this been a little smoother, Assault Rigs would definitely be on my must-play list.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to Retro 500, where I review a retro game in 500 words. Give or take 10%. Prepare yourself! Megaman X4 marked the first time in the franchise that Zero had a fully playable adventure from start to finish. The addition of Zero and his close quarters combat-focused moveset breathed new life into the series. They did a phenomenal job of making Zero's first full game one of the greatest, with many saying that his quest is what makes this the best X entry. So, let's play as X. Oh X, you poor bastard. It's like they built a whole game around Zero, remembered that the series was called Megaman X, and quickly stuffed X in there. Even his story's half-arsed. Zero personally knows many of the Mavericks he encounters, his love interest is the sister of one of the main antagonists, and the game embellishes on Zero's mysterious origins. For X, it's just another day in the office, hunting Mavericks and making money. For some basic drama, you are assisted by Double, who, shockingly,
double crosses you as he is a double agent. Sigma is here too, not that you'd ever guess from how well they cover it up in the intro. Did I mention I'm playing this on the Sega Saturn rather than the more common PlayStation release? In exchange for a lot of dithered or fully opaque graphics, worse quality FMVs that didn't look great on the PS1 to begin with, and a weird control scheme, you can experience approximately 1.5 seconds of extra music, as well as this heatwave effect in 2 stages. Look at that! Ugh. For the low price of... holy shit. This can be yours. Would I insult you if I described how a Megaman game works? I probably would. X must travel through 8 stages and destroy the robot the Maverick waiting at the end. Once defeated, X gains the weapon and can use it on another Maverick who may be weak to it. After clearing the Maverick stages, you move on to the final stages, where you fight the Mavericks all over again. Just because. The boss rush in X4 really highlights how ill thought out X's half of the game is, because every single boss can easily be stun-locked by the weakness. In Zero's case, most moves either need to be performed on the ground or don't target any particular weakness. The hardest Maverick fight in the game is against whoever you pick first because you have to use the Buster. Mega Man X4 is certainly a mixed bag. One half being one of the greatest adventures in the series, the other half being one of the most unexciting. But that doesn't mean it's bad. The graphics are detailed, well animated, and convey a great sense of depth compared to the cartoony nature of previous entries. Look at X breathing with his mechanical lungs. The music is a triumph too. While I prefer the soundtrack from X5, X4 shifted the tone away from horrible SNES guitar power chords to a synth-based futuristic soundscape, which is far more appropriate. It's absolutely worth a playthrough, even as X. But make sure you go for the PlayStation version because the Saturn port just isn't worth fighting for!
You have to take care of me.
Don't be ridiculous.
Hello and welcome to Retro 500, where I review a retro game, and yes, this is retro, in 500 words, give or take 10%. Good lord.
Take it already!
Here we go!
Yeah!
Level up!
Sonic Heroes is an atrocious game. No, it's not, I hear you say. I loved this game when I was growing up. Do you know what I loved when I was growing up? Green Dog and Burger King, both of which are objectively bad, and the same is true for Sonic Heroes. While it's not as outwardly terrible as Sonic 06, it remains a bloated clusterfuck of awful game design, controls, physics, and sound. Heroes managed to escape the same criticism as Sonic 06, scurrying into the darkness of our memories under a cloak of nostalgia. Sonic Heroes has you select from one of 4 teams who essentially represent easy, normal, hard, and other difficulty modes. Although it stands out most, Team Chaotix's questline feels like a half-assed DLC that adds new missions, all of which are uninspired challenges such as earn 200 rings or defeat 3 golden turtles. Teams Sonic, Dark and Rose are more traditional in their gameplay, with extended or truncated levels being the main difference between them. Surprisingly, the graphics are decent, apart from the characters looking like they're made of plastic. Every stage, without fail, is surrounded by bottomless pits. These were present in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, but not as much as in Heroes, where they're a threat right from the beginning. Pair this with the fact that the physics in this game were programmed by someone from another dimension, where momentum seemingly doesn't exist. Teams consist of a speed, power and fly character, and oddly enough, it's the power member who's responsible for most deaths. When attacking, they'll go from 0 to 60 in a microsecond, often sending them hurtling off a platform into the abyss.
Mission failed.
Your speed character isn't without flaws either. Sonic and Shadow both have a light speed dash and tornado attack. Both are assigned to the same button, and neither is reliable. Many times you'll try to do a light speed dash only to perform a tornado attack, and vice versa, making for some sweaty palms in later stages where missing a dash equals death. Gameplay essentially boils down to go fast down a corridor for a bit, come to a dead stop, and use another member's ability, go fast again. Rinse and repeat, with the occasional boss and very lazy endurance battle. Let's not forget the all-you-can-eat buffet of bugs. Finding glitches in this game is like looking for a shit stain in a public toilet. It's easy, but stinky.
Look at all the huge turtles. Swimming like that looks fun.
I want to start vlogging and go fishing.
Sonic Heroes began a very annoying tradition of characters never, ever shutting up. No matter where you go, someone has something to say.
Let's go.
Chips? You mean potato chips?
Not those kind of chips, silly.
Not to mention the repetitive voice clips.
Annihilation, 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 annihilation.
Everyone speaks or grunts when leveling up, attacking, jumping, and changing members.
Here we go. All right. Wow.
And no, I'm not changing the language to Japanese. I shouldn't have to. 500 words isn't enough to fully bring this game to justice. Much like GoldenEye 64, it's a golden memory for a generation of gamers, of whom many haven't touched the game ever since. Remember, nostalgia makes for flimsy armour, and if you really want to defend Sonic Heroes, make sure you play the damn thing first.
We're off. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Retro 500, where I review a retro game in 500 words. Give or take 10%. Don't get salty now.
No hill too high, no desert too dry, no road too long, no tide too strong.
The year is 1993 and Sonic the Hedgehog's third entry is rumoured to be on the horizon. Data East needs to capitalise on that mascot dollar, and it's up to you to invent the next big cash cow. All you need is an anthropomorphic main character with attitude, but which animal do you choose? The hedgehog and the fox are off limits. How about an opossum? Bollocks. Duck? Nope. Bobcat? Definitely not. Ugh. How are you going to seal the deal on a new game without a... Wait. Seal! What about a plot? Well, a seal lives in the sea. What else lives in the sea? Pirates! In High Seas Havoc, you play as Captain Havoc, a mammal on a mission to rescue a girl named Bridget from evil pirates who plan to use the Chaos Emeralds to take over the world or something. Like most platformers of the era, the plot is irrelevant, But it was nice of them to add a well-drawn intro rather than relegating it to the manual. To say Havoc is Sonic-inspired is a mild understatement. While the game is nowhere near as fast and focuses more on precision platforming, it borrows the 2 acts and a boss formula, and Havoc himself looks like a mid-tier Sonic OC. As I've said before, I was a sucker for mascots, and Havoc's more than passing resemblance to Sonic the Hedgehog is the sole reason I wanted to rent the game back in the day. Where this game differs from Sonic is in its difficulty. The game takes the term platformer very seriously and quickly ramps up the platforming challenge. It's still mostly fair. Blind jumps are virtually absent, and you're more likely to die due to being knocked off a platform by an enemy, rather than missing a jump. Instead of using rings for protection, Havoc has a life bar and can take several hits before dying, but suffers from Megaman syndrome and will die instantly to certain hazards such as spikes. Except here. Havoc also leans into the gimmick trope, with most stages containing some kind of unique feature, such as the freezing water in the Frozen Palace, and the bomb from Final Fantasy in the Burning Hamlet level. This section is genuinely tense, and it's extremely satisfying to clear on your first attempt, but that's not going to happen. Both the graphics and sound are above average for the genre, with Havoc himself being very well animated. He has unique animations for taking damage from certain hazards, which are entertaining the first couple of times, but annoying thereafter. The music itself is similar to the Mega Drive orchestra sound of Rocket Knight Adventures, but on a lower budget. It's well done, and it makes your adventure feel a little more grand. High Seas Havoc is, without a doubt, a hidden gem that's likely been forgotten due to the protagonist's shameless resemblance to Sonic, as well as the market being so saturated at the time. If you've never played this, it's well worth the loan needed to legally buy a copy of the game. Who even cares about credit ratings? Definitely not a cool pirate. Hello and welcome to Retro 500, where I review a retro game in 500 words. Give or take 10%. Let's go. DoReMi Fantasy, developed by Hudson Soft and released in 1996. It's such a well-known hidden gem that I wonder whether it even fits the description nowadays. There was a near 10-year gap between Milon's Secret Castle on the NES and its sequel here on the Super Nintendo. Barring the bubble-blowing main character, the two games don't have much in common, which is fine by me. The game never released outside of Japan until the untranslated Wii Virtual Console version 12 years later. DoReMi Fantasy's intro shows Milon and his younger brother playing in the forest when they interrupt a pack of bloodthirsty animals about to murder a sexy fairy. The fairy, elated at her rescue, almost activates Milon's puberty but gets kidnapped by a big, bad, well-sculpted demon. Incensed that his balls won't be dropping anytime soon, Milon embarks on a quest across 7 worlds to gather magical instruments in order to save his express ticket to facial hair. That's how I interpret it anyway. Once you're into the game, it doesn't take long to understand why it's so highly regarded. The graphics have a gorgeous pastel palette and everything is well drawn and animated, especially Milon. The world map itself is full of detail and reflects the journey you take throughout the stages, such as the gondolas in the first world and the giant cake in the second. The controls are perfectly tuned and getting around the stages is a breeze. Mylon can either bounce on an enemy's head to stun them or blow bubbles at them. Once trapped in a bubble, an enemy can be knocked into the stratosphere. Enemies respawn quickly, which is fairly useful as they're often required to reach hidden areas. At the end of each world is a dungeon or labyrinth that requires a key to exit. These stages usually contain enemies and mechanics not seen in the current world, which adds a small zing of freshness. After clearing this stage, you're off to fight the boss, which, once defeated, will relinquish one of the instruments to you. However, the instrument is out of juice and needs to be re-energized via the magic stars hidden throughout the subsequent world. The fully charged instrument can then be taken to the local virtuoso, who will give it a toot, puff, or tickle, which will drive the evil from the land. Or something. It's formulaic, but so well executed that you can't help but love it. The soundtrack, composed by Jun Chikuma, most well known for Bomberman, oh look, there he is, has a few whimsical tunes, as well as ambient atmospheric tracks. It's almost as if the SNES is being used creatively as a sampler, and the huge amount of bit crushing only adds to its charm. There are bonus mini-games hidden throughout the stages, but due to the game being untranslated, the rules aren't always clear. For example, I just thought you had to count the birds here, but I end up losing. I feel like we should just think of DoReMi Fantasy as a great game, rather than a hidden gem. It's like Kim Kardashian's sex tape. We all know about it, so let's just appreciate it. Maybe if you write to your local politician, we might get a version on the Switch.
Oh, please! I'll do anything, anything, please!
Anything?
Casino here, casino there, casino.
Help! Go away!
Hello and welcome to Retro 500, where I take a look at a retro game in 500 words. Give or take 10%. Tune up that G-string and let's get fingering. Remember Parappa the Rapper? Of course you do. A mere mention of his name will elicit a
Punch, it's all in the mind.
from any passerby. Parappa came out of nowhere and ended up being a cult hit thanks to its unique art style, simple but challenging gameplay, and catchy soundtrack. Lammy was released in 1999, 3 years after Parappa's debut. The game stars a brand new hero, Lammy the Lamb, guitarist of the band Milk Can. Lammy is generally a nervous wreck and can be a bit of a Debbie Downer at times, but put a guitar in her hands and her anxiety melts away into a screaming power chord of confidence. The story revolves around Lammy's commute to a milk can gig, during which she runs into increasingly bizarre delays, such as having to extinguish a fire in a Pizza Hut, piloting a jumbo jet, and even getting killed. All these scenarios initially throw Lammy into a flap, but by recalling a mantra given to her in a dream by Chop Chop Master Onion,
Dojo, casino, it's all in the mind.
Lammy calms her tits and plows on.
That's right, my guitar's in my mind!
Channeling her focus as a musician, Lammy mentally transforms whatever object happens to be nearby into a guitar, resulting in some hilarious imagery. The 3-year period between Lammy and Parappa shows a significant graphical improvement. Characters are less stiff and more expressive, there's more going on in the background, and the camera work is more dynamic, which helps bring Lammy's world to life. And what an insane world it is! It feels like it came straight out of a child's ADHD fever dream. The gameplay has undergone some refinement, and you're now able to see upcoming note sequences, giving you a better indication of when a line may end early to prevent sneaky trip-ups. Looking at you, Instructor Mussolini! The player samples feel more tightly chopped, so that they play the moment you hit the button, whereas in Parappa they always felt a little off. There's also a huge amount of content, as once you beat the game, you can play through almost all of it again as Parappa with hip-hop remixes of the stage themes and an enjoyable side story.
Yeah, welcome to the fire.
Musically, Jamalami is so much better than the original. The call and response of the instructor and guitar has a great rock and roll feel and works a lot more than the line repetition of Parappa. The songs themselves are more refined and far catchier, which helps alleviate the frustration of failing a song on the last 2 lines.
I thought I said I didn't have time for jokers.
I didn't mean to be a joker.
There are some duds in here, but the proportion of good to bad tracks is higher than in Parappa. Sadly, Lammy never achieved the same level of success as its predecessor, which is a shame as I much prefer her character over Parappa. I can hope that one day we get a remastered edition much like what we got for Parappa 1, but who knows what legal tape needs to be addressed before that can happen. Until then, if you can track down a copy of Jamalami or get past the input lag on PS3, give this game a proper wangle.
If I'm dead, then the game's over. What a stupid game.
Oh, there's the guitarist. Come on, hurry, hurry. We need you out there.
Huh?
Not yet, not yet.
Hello and welcome to Retro 500, where I take a look at a retro game in 500 words. Give or take 10%. Oh boy! I think we can all agree that Castle of Illusion on the Sega Mega Drive was, at the time, one of the best Mickey Mouse games ever made. It was the first 16-bit entry for Mickey, and it really showed off the capabilities of the super advanced Sega console. While Sega's Illusion series continued on both the Mega Drive and Master System, third-party developers were also eyeing up Mickey's delectable udders. Mickey Mania, The Timeless Adventures of Mickey Mouse, was developed by Traveller's Tales and released in late 1994 for the SNES, Mega Drive and Sega CD. We're looking at the SNES version today because why not look at the worst version of an already bad game? Mickey Mania has Mickey travelling back in time to revisit his biggest adventures for no reason whatsoever. No Minnie to save, no evil entity to defeat. Just cause. Are these loading times? In a cartridge game? Anyway, the execution of the first stage is great. The level starts out in black and white, just like in Steamboat Willie, and gets more colourful as you progress. After a few minutes of play, you'll notice a few quirks. If you hold and jump as you land on the ground, you'll instantly jump again. This is fine for games with a fixed jump height, where a quick tap will do, but in Mickey Mania you need to hold jump for more height, and this can really screw with you in platform-heavy stages. Mickey's sprite is also an issue. Look at this shameless manspreading. He looks cool and dynamic, but it's a ball ache working out where your collision box is, and this will cause more deaths than it should. Speaking of dying, why do we have to go to a separate screen for a death animation? Did Traveler's Tales think Mario, Sonic, and even Mickey himself got it wrong in the past? The Mad Doctor is the second stage, and things get worse. Whenever you defeat these skeleton shitbags, they explode into a bunch of bones that damage you and are often impossible to dodge. Why is a bouncing bone so lethal anyway? We also experience one of the first minigame stages with this kart ride section, where the lower horizontal resolution of the SNES really starts to show its ugly face. I died? I landed on the ground! Did Mickey's knees explode? At this point, it should be obvious that this is not a well-designed game. There are multiple instances of the player having zero chance to react to stage hazards. What's this silhouette here? Oh, it's a big fuck-off spider, and I'm dead. Okay, what am I meant to do here? Oh, I need to inflate the duck, and I'm dead. Bullshit! What I can say is that Mickey Mania is a great looking game, and it really does feel as though you could be playing a Disney cartoon. However, cool graphics and effects always seem to be Traveler's Tales' priority, rather than making a fair and well-playing game. If you really want some 16-bit Mickey Mania, avoid the SNES version at all costs. If you want a good 16-bit Mickey Mouse game, play Castle of Illusion instead. This is bullshit! Hey, thanks a lot for watching this episode of Retro 500. As you can imagine, 500 words doesn't really give me much and I can't cover everything. If you think there's something I've missed, let me know down in the comments, but have a look in that description box as well, you might find some additional information. If you enjoyed this, please consider doing us a follow on Twitch, link will be in the description. You can also check out the other Retro 500 reviews on my channel, as well as my live stream highlights. Anyway, thanks again, and have a lovely day.